Okay, everyone, just to say we will be getting started with the webinar Resourcing Diversity and Getting It Right in just 2 minutes. We're just waiting for the attendee list to climb. Okay, everyone, we are starting the webinar Resourcing Diversity and Getting It Right in 1 minute. Okay, so welcome to Resourcing Diversity and Getting It Right webinar. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Morgan Lobb and I'm the CEO and founder of Vercida, formerly Diversity Jobs and the Big Idea. We're going to be taking you through the functionality of Vercida, its features, and why we've spent 13 months developing this product. So we're going to start that right now. I'm just going to bring up the main screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so right, here we go. So we've spent the last 13 months developing Resourcing Diversity and Getting It Right for Vercida. Now, what we've done here is we've taken the research that we took from Diversity Jobs and the Big Idea, which we've been developing for just over 6 years. And we put all that learning into the new product, Vercida. Now, the main reason we went for a rebrand here was actually because a lot of the users, in fact thousands of people were telling us that they didn't necessarily class themselves as being diverse within their own mindset, and actually diversity jobs seem to pigeonhole people into a category of diversity, and actually people want to be accepted for who they are, and diversity has a certain negative connotation for some. So we went with the name Vercida, which, as you can see on the screen here now, is an acronym. It's scrolling through, and what it means to the user is values, equality, respect, culture, inclusion, diversity, and accessibility. So kind of what's the big deal with this site then, in terms of why have we decided to go with this platform? Well, as I mentioned, it's taken us over 13 months now to develop this actual product. Now, the reason we chose to develop our own product and not go with an off-the-shelf careers website is that there's a lot of limitations with using a job board that you can buy off the shelf, or white label sites such as a Magex or a Job Board Mount or a Gecko, and that is you're restricted mainly to what those organizations can give you for the technology for the job. And what we're doing here with Vercida is we're actually built something that's specific for the challenge of combining the organization's need to recruit diversity with their resourcing needs. So it's a combination of leveraging the diversity work to help the resourcing strategy. And there were certain limitations that we had using off-the-shelf products, which we'd used before. Now, one of the biggest advantages that we get from developing our own site is actually the levels of accessibility that we can provide. Accessibility is a legal requirement. Unfortunately, many organizations don't provide the levels of accessibility needed, And that's because maybe their ATS isn't accessible, maybe their front end isn't accessible, and it's a real compliance issue. It's a requirement for a lot of government departments that you have an accessible website, and not having that means that you could fall foul of tenders, etc. And not to mention the fact that it's best practice, and it shows as an organisation that you take inclusion seriously. So by providing this type of platform, we've been able to get the highest levels of accessibility. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, accessibility is generally the guideline for the W3C guidelines. W3C is an organisation that's managed by Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the internet. And what we've done with Vercida is actually partnered with the Shaw Trust. And the Shaw Trust are the largest provider, or largest third-party provider to the government sector. And they actually have a dedicated team down in their Nice office in France, which caters for website accessibility. And they have a range of individuals there with mobility limitations, people who are blind, dyslexic, colorblind. And actually the Vercida platform had a 60-hour audit from the Shaw Trust, which came back with a huge array of changes that we needed to make to ensure that the site is now the world's most accessible careers platform, and that has now been passed. So for the sake of the soft launch, we're incredibly happy with the levels of accessibility. We do go beyond the ask as well, so we've got our own technology here, where if I click a button, I can actually have the site speak to me. It's an updated version of our old Speak This Page technology. It's got a lot more functionality to help those who have dyslexia, for example. So you can see here I've got a ruler to stop the page jumping around. I can change the contrast on screen. So we've gone way beyond the ask in terms of accessibility to the user. Now, that's not because we're there specifically to target people with disabilities, but it's always been a core basis of the fact that we can't be truly inclusive as an organisation if we're not pushing the levels of accessibility to ensure that we're capturing everyone. Okay, so I'm going to move on from this. Now, what we looked at as a result of, again, developing our own technology, was it enables us to actually really put in some nice core functionality in terms of what we give to the user. And it's about the user experience that we're focused on, and it's about making everybody feel as included as they can at a time when they're hiding their diversity. And a major part of the research that we did shows that people hide their diversity when they go looking for a job. So they're not talking about their sexual orientation, they're not talking about their hidden disabilities, they're changing the name on their CV. And the reason they're doing that is because people have become mistrusting of the recruitment process. So they're actually trying to tell employers what they want to hear, and it's not a true reflection of who they are. So we kind of got ourselves in a position where organisations doing a lot of work on diversity, but the users aren't seeing it because they're not necessarily going to that employer in the first place. So the diversity of Morgan Stanley or American Express may fall on deaf ears because the fact that the users simply aren't going to that organisation in the first place, or they may have negative connotations of that organisation that could be wrong. So here we've done a search for Java developer. And then what we do is we go into the main search field, is that we can actually filter that down to the characteristics that are representative of who I am as an individual. So if I'm from an LGBT background, I can select that I actually want to become a Java developer, but I want to work for an organization that has got strong LGBT initiatives. So you can see I've filtered out companies that don't necessarily have LGBT initiatives. So I've gone from over 60 jobs to 47 roles. I can do all the usual searching that I can do on job boards, but here I can also then filter by flexible working benefits, accommodation, accessible buildings. So we're putting control into the space of the user. Now, interestingly, what I've done here is I did a Java developer role, and you might see here it's brought back an engineer position from American Express. Now, that's not necessarily relevant to Java development, so I'm going to click on that and find out why that's brought that back. There's a lot of talk at the moment about the strength of candidate input and research results to ensure that you get the best, most relevant candidates back. And here, what we can see here is actually the International Membership Rewards and Partnerships department within American Express are looking for a Java developer. Now, it might seem straightforward to you that that's come back, but actually getting this right is very difficult from a coding point of view, because we're looking at, my search criteria was for an engineer, and then combining that with the characteristic of being from an LGBT community. And what we've then done is we've returned the Java developer role, which was actually in my search string. Now, that's kind of some of the job board functionality, and really where we describe ourselves is not as a job board. We describe ourselves as a career site, and there's a distinct difference between a job board and a career site, and that is, a career site is there for people to really dig deep into what they want from an employer outside of the job. We feel that job descriptions are they're kind of dated. They're not really a true representation of what you're likely to get as an employment experience. So where we get to the point where we've displayed the information, you can only read half of the job. Now, this was a piece of functionality that we wanted to build in that's unique to us. And what we're doing here is we're encouraging the individual to view that employer as an employer of choice based on the workplace environment that they're providing. So, as I said, you can't read the full job description. We break the job in half, and we put right in the heart of the job information about what makes American Express a great place to work, what they're doing. So we're using the information that Amex have internally, and we're externalizing that as part of the job information requirement. Now, what we're doing there is we're leveraging the work that other departments are doing as part of the resourcing need, and that means that resourcing now have additional information that they can put in front of the job seeker. It's a managed service. We do this for our employers, and this is ongoing, so that the footprint gets bigger and bigger. And it's a functionality that provides content that engages with the candidate. So as before, I suggested that I was looking for a Java developer role. I requested LGBT as my initiative that was of interest to me. And what I can do here is I can look at the Pride at Amex. So I can go through. We've actually indexed Amex. We've taken all the different networks that they have, and we've uploaded this information into Vercida. So I can really start to then change the perception of who Amex are in the eyes of the job seekers, and provide them with a platform here that talks about everything that they're doing within Amex to become a much more engaging employer with the types of candidates that they want to recruit. And there's where the mismatch lays, is the fact that organizations are saying they want to recruit more LGBT, or they want to recruit more women, but they just don't get those types of applicants because they're not necessarily seen as an employer choice, hence the reason they have a lack of diversity at those levels. So what we're doing here is we're presenting all of the great things that they're doing as a point of attraction. Okay, so we're saying to those individuals, if you are coming to this website en masse, and that's what we do, is we drive traffic to the website en masse, we then start to connect with those individuals based on who they are. So we can then start to index to American Express all the things they're doing, so we can have video footage about who they are as an organization. We can take stock images, high resolution pictures of the workplace environment, and we start to educate job seekers as to what it's like to work at Amex. So really using diversity as an attraction piece to gain the engagement from those individuals. So the values, the diversity, benefits of working there, what their people are saying, their awards, their accreditations. We can start looking at, actually, great, it's amazing that you're a Sunday Times 25 big company, but what does that actually mean to me as an organization, as a job seeker, and who else has these accreditations? Okay, so I can really start to dig into what that organization is doing and what it means to me. Okay, so that's one of the kind of major pieces of the fact that we're using content to engage with the individual. Now, other pieces of information that we're putting in front of job seekers is the fact that we actually start to become a resource bank for individuals that want to research organisations. So here we've got a search functionality. Now, within Vercida, we've got over 3,000 articles that have been gleaned from both the employers that we work with and articles that either we've written or we've taken from the internet that we feel are relevant to job seekers with a viewpoint for diversity. So what I did just then is I searched for LGBT, and I can get results that are coming back. And within this search field, what the site actually starts to do here is it starts to talk about LGBT, but then as I click through to different articles, the site starts to look at the behavior that I have as an individual, and it will start to steer me again towards organizations that have a desire for LGBT in the workplace. And here we can see it's Balfour Beatty. Balfour Beatty being a construction company, want people from the LGBT know that they're LGBT friendly, because it's an area that they have struggled with because of the unconscious bias of job seekers, thinking that necessarily the construction industry isn't LGBT friendly. And in many cases it isn't, but actually in this case it is, and here's why. But what the site then starts to do is it configures itself to know that there's a likelihood that I'm an LGBT user, so it starts to serve me up more LGBT content. As a result of that, I can then start to view information that's relevant to me, and then I can see the Cedar clients, and I can start going through to those individual organizations and start to apply for companies that I know are very strong on LGBT. So it's about using content to engage with the job seeker and start to push them towards organizations that have positive action as part of their recruitment desire. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on, I've just got a few more minutes left before we can then start to go to some questions from the audience. If we look at the login screen here for Vercida, as we log in, we get a dashboard here, and within this dashboard we can start to interact with job seekers, asking them about information that might be relevant to them, content about gender, about disability, so I can like it, I can go back to previous questions. And again, what this enables the system to do is start to understand the needs and the desires of the job seeker, so we can really start to push relevant content towards those individuals and push them to the right types of organisation. And really this is where it starts to get very deep in terms of what we're able to glean from the user base. We're asking people to share some very sensitive information with us about their ethnicity, whether they have parental caring responsibilities, their religion, their sexual orientation. Yeah, and as a result of that, we were able to collect very deep metrics for the organisations that are members, so people that want to advertise their jobs with Vercida. And we can start to give very in-depth reports to organisations, such as you had X amount of views of your jobs from a proportion of society that shared with us that they're from an LGBT or they're from a female community, but they didn't then actually go on and apply to your roles. They then went on and applied to your competitors' positions because they had more in-depth and more engaging information, or you simply didn't have information that was relevant to them as a job seeker. And again, we're looking at behavioural science here in terms of the fact that people are really looking for their next employer to be inclusive. Wages are fairly stagnant, inflation is high, employment's at an all-time high, so organisations are really pushing as hard as they can to make sure that they come across as being inclusive to a wide variety of individuals. So as we come up to the 20-minute mark, I think I've kind of given you enough of the highlights in terms of what makes us different. The platform, as I mentioned, it's highly related to diversity. We're really bridging the gap here between resourcing need and diversity need to leverage what we can do for our employers to make them more accessible and reflect the diversity of their organisation to individuals that are job seekers. Okay, so I think we're going to be ready now to take some questions. I'm going to hand over now to Adam, my colleague, to pull this part of the screen up. So if you give me just 1 second, I'm going to enable that functionality. Okay, so the chat's ready. If anyone wants to push into their box any questions, we can start asking questions now. I'm just going to test this to make sure it's actually working. Okay, so we have do we have any questions? We are actually recording this today as well, so if it poses some questions and people want to get in contact with us to ask further questions at the end, we're more than happy to take questions. You can contact us at info@vercida.com, or you can give us a call on the number that you see here on your screen. Or you can use the contact us section of the Vercida website. We've not had any questions come through. We've got around 50 people on, so either we've answered everything you need to know, or there's you're going to want to ask some questions at another time. So I'm going to end the webinar for now. Hopefully you've taken some good information out of what we're trying to achieve at Vercida. The fact that we've spent over a year building this platform, and it's a result of everything that job seekers and the employers that we work with have been asking for. So thank you for your time today, everyone. We'll be pushing this webinar out, so for those that joined us late, you'll get another opportunity to hear this. Oh, we've got questions coming through. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, Francesco, unfortunately we can't see the questions at this end, so what we'll do is we'll get back to those that have got questions individually and do our best to answer those offline. But for the time being, oh, here we go. How are you planning to advertise the site to candidates to drive traffic? Okay, that's from Wincy. Okay, thank you for the question there, Wincy. Well, we're advertising Vercida very much as the same as we did with Diversity Jobs. Actually, driving traffic to a careers site isn't really difficult in the digital age. You just need to throw enough money at it, really. We can buy traffic en masse. What we do there is the traffic that comes to our website is a mixture. We've got over 1,200 routes to market, but in the main, if individuals are coming to our site, it's very likely they could also see that job on other career sites. Job description, as we say, is really the bait. It's clickbait. It enables you to get people to your site because you have what they want. The main difference is actually what they see when they arrive on the site. So the whole idea and what we saw with the uptake with Diversity Jobs is we know that when you present information to job seekers that is relevant to them as a human being, you see a 30% increase in view to click through. And it's a classic case of the fact that we showed you Balfour Beatty earlier. If I happen to click on a job, I arrived at that job, and it might not be a construction related position, it could be an accountancy role or a marketing role, but I see it's a construction company. My unconscious bias flares up, and I think that that's an environment that I'm not going to want to work in. So by presenting the LGBT information in front of that individual at that moment, we start to engage with them and start to change their preconceived ideas about that brand or that industry sector for Balfour Beatty. So we're starting to leverage the internal work that's gone unseen and pushing that information into the job seeker. So Andrew, we've got a question coming from you as well. I will do my best to answer that in just a second. Christian, is any of the content available in BSL signed video? Well, the content that we produce, Kirsten, is actually from the employers. So when we load up videos from Vercida, we make sure that we have captions. In cases where BSL signed video is available, we will display all that content. Again, much of the content is driven by the clients that we're working with. So if they've not produced content with BSL signed video, it won't have it. Obviously, you're more than welcome to contact those organisations and request it. But that combined with the fact that we're providing high levels of accessibility, we're happy as to where we're at. We will encourage people to use BSL in all cases, but obviously if it's legacy content, then it's up to the organisation to actually make sure that they've included that. But we do encourage people to make sure that they don't produce videos that have BSL. So Linda, does Vercida have a functionality for unseen conditions, i.e. a filter? So unseen conditions, I'm going to suggest that maybe you mean a hidden disability, for example. So if we look at actual the filter here, we've got a lot of filters. It's impossible to have them all, but within this case we do have invisible disabilities. We took a decision not to include everything because there's simply too many disabilities and medical conditions to list individually. So we're being generic, or as specifically generic as we can possibly be. The main thing about the site is that it's in constant development. So as the user behavior shows us, and as we get feedback from job seekers, we're going to know what one of these to take out and what ones to put in. This isn't a fixed system. It is ongoing, and we're going to constantly be growing the functionality. My colleague and I, Ben, actually got back from Sophia yesterday. We had 3 days with our developers to talk about the next 6 months. So, you know, we're in constant development. Members of this site don't just get a rigid system. One of the beautiful things about writing your own site is that you're in complete control of the functionality that the members request. Okay, Andrew Rowland, how many users are registered on the site? Andrew, the soft launch went live last week. Last year we had over 2.5 million people that came to Diversity Jobs. What we will be doing is switching all of that traffic over to Vercida. We expect that to double in size very quickly. We produced our own site because we have SEO as a strong function. We're not relying on users to go from Diversity Jobs over to the big idea, so we've improved the candidate functionality. We've got much more stickiness in terms of time on the site. If you consider that just 5 years ago when the first version was launched, we had 17,500 people that came to us in the first year. And obviously you can't run a business on that, but that said, we didn't have many clients that we were working with. It was our first year and we didn't have many jobs. So actually what it is it's more a combination of the number of jobs that you have versus the number of visitors that you have to the site. There's no point in having thousands of jobs and no visitors. Likewise, if you've got tens of millions of visitors and not many jobs, you've got a real quandary there in terms of your chicken and egg. The jobs are the clickbait, and as we take on new clients and new members, at the moment we're at 6,000 jobs, our audience increases proportionately. Okay, so it's the jobs that we take to market and advertise, and as a result of having jobs, we pull traffic to our website. So it's around 12 clicks per job. It's about an industry standard, but it's about the engagement of those individuals. Okay, so what are the numbers? So Rachel, thank you for the question. What are the numbers of users looking like, and how are the clients measuring ROI? Okay, so the number of users, as I mentioned just a minute ago, is 2.5 million. We currently sat at 110 employers using the platform. Clients are measuring ROI in a number of ways. For some people, it's just about placements. For some people, it's the fact that they are able to offer a best practice system which provides accessibility. In actual fact, using the system indemnifies them from indirect discrimination because they are supplying a site that is accessible, which is a requirement of the Equality Act. So there's lots of different reasons why organisations are using us. Main reason I would say is because diversity teams are very much now working with resourcing teams, but lack the tools in which to leverage the diversity work as part of the resourcing requirement. Within the platform, we are offering that functionality by design as a result of what members are asking us for. So ROI could be the fact that it's a platform that is getting a response, it's getting applications, we're making placements. In many cases, we are the #1 source of applicants. We're doing great work with Sky, Nationwide Building Society. As some of you might know, we're the #1 provider of staff. In fact, we've made more placements for them than I believe all of their other external advertising channel. It's specifically related to diversity. And the fact is there's just simply a lack of resources available for resourcing teams and diversity teams. Okay, so Andrew at CGI, are stats currently available in terms of diversity streams applying, not applying to our roles? Andrew, thank you for that. That data is growing. As we measure the site, we've got a huge amount of data available to us now that was unavailable before. So user behavior has been a key driver for the site. We're using a management product called Whoopra. It records every keystroke of the candidate. We're going to be knowing exactly what articles they're reading, whether they're then applying for other jobs. We're going to need about 6 months to make sense of the data, but believe me, at the end of that, we're going to have industry-leading statistics. It will be able to help companies rank and score each other and find out where there are areas for improvement. So, yeah, data is a key factor in what we're looking to achieve to give to our member. Okay, Wincy, how have you planned to provide your clients with meaningful data to show how much traffic our company pages are receiving and how that's converting to applications? Yeah, as just mentioned, a similar question from Wincy that came in from Andrew. So obviously a topic of what get measured gets done, and yeah, reporting is the major advantage over our previous system. How do you price access to the site? From Orla. Orla, we are a membership-based organisation. We have 3 levels of membership: Diversity Ally, Partner and Leader. All memberships come with unlimited jobs, and if you'd like to find out how to become a member, you can speak to one of our team. We would like to have a conversation with you before we agree to membership. We'd like to find out what your drivers are, who you are, what you do and what you're trying to achieve. Membership is for the benefit of all members, as new members come on, and it benefits previous members. So if you'd like to have a chat about membership, then we'll have that chat with you. So last question we're going to take is from Abigail. Does the site also support candidates with mental health issues? Is there a relevant filter? Yes, there is. We have, as mentioned before, we've got a huge article base here for individuals. If you want to search for mental health, you can search that as a keyword, and it'll bring up all mental health articles. If I bring that into the filter, and we can start to see organisations that support mental health, and we can start to educate candidates as to which organisations. Now, the functionality here is to make sure that individuals start to experience less discrimination. If you know you're speaking to an organisation that takes mental health seriously, or any other characteristic for that matter, you'll then only apply to companies that you know that have got mental health initiatives internally. Okay, so that concludes the webinar. Thank you very much for the questions, and thank you very much for those viewing. If you'd like any more information, please do get in contact. We will gladly take any questions offline, but that concludes today's webinar with some of the features of Vercida. Thank you very much. We're now going to end the session. Thank you very much.